I'm gonna change things up this week. Welcome
Are we?
back to
Oh,
CNM in the PM with your boys, Joe and Michael. We are back for week 12.
I don't know.
Um, I think ish somewhere around there.
It's been a few
Could
months.
be
We've missed a
episode.
lot of
This
weeks.
is this is this is stream 12. Who knows what episode it's gonna be?
Yeah.
It could be 11. I don't know.
And so not last week's episode, because there wasn't an episode last week, because I was at a wedding, but the week before that's episode is delayed, because since I was at a wedding, I forgot to download the audio for the episode before that. I Either Michael has to rip the audio file from his recording, or that episode's just not releasing on Spotify.
Yeah. I
We'll
don't
see what
know. I
happens.
can I can either rip it or it's just not getting released at all. Like
Yeah, we don't know yet.
I'm not putting it on YouTube without it being on Spotify. Spotify
Yeah.
exclusives are one thing, but YouTube exclusives are not as good, you know?
And I don't think it was what episode. Oh, it was list of satanic
Oh
things.
yeah, it was just us reading a list and commenting on them.
So like
It
not a
wasn't a
bad episode, but not like yeah,
huge loss. Not a
not the
huge loss.
craziest thing. I enjoyed it, but
I enjoyed it also. It felt more like just us, you know? It felt like just us randomly talking about something that we found interesting while
because
getting sidetracked at every possible turn.
because we don't know what we're talking about this week yet, which is a pretty common theme.
That's about how it goes. I made it through a full week of work, unrelated to what we're gonna talk about on the podcast, probably, but that happened. My bad luck
Which is
has finally
great.
run out.
Super happy for you.
Also
I
super happy for me.
pretty much missed an entire week of school because I couldn't be bothered.
Fair enough.
Well, so Monday I had a headache from the night before at the Super Bowl. So I went to my morning class, I think. I don't really remember. It was a week ago almost.
That's a long time ago, man.
So I think I went to my morning class and then I went home. Then yeah, that sounds about right because I talked to JC, one of the guys in my class. So then I didn't go to either of my afternoon classes. Then Tuesday, I went to my morning class and I didn't go to my afternoon class. Then Wednesday, I didn't go to school. Thursday, I didn't go to school, and Friday, I didn't go to school.
I learned to use a machine that I was supposed to learn as the first machine I learned when I got into the shop this week, and
The
this
fire
week was the first
extinguisher.
time I touched it. No, like there was a it's a turntable, just like a 4 foot diameter turntable, and I was supposed to learn it as like the first machine when I got into the shop, and then the first week I was there, I couldn't work at all because the safety lady hadn't sent me my safety stuff. And then the Monday, the next week, when after I'd done all my safety stuff, I went into the shop and the bearing that moves the head just broke. And we've just not gotten around to fixing it because we've been so busy with it being winter that it's just it just hasn't been fixed. And so this week it finally got fixed and I learned how to use it. And it was really easy after using the really big turntable.
Fair enough.
Yeah, once you learn on the 10-foot turntable first, the 4 foot one is significantly less intimidating.
Yeah, that checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and then yeah, I've just been existing. I got a lot of schoolwork, um, but that's doesn't necessarily mean anything with me, just because like it takes so much mental effort to attempt schoolwork. Like I turned in an assignment Friday night that was due 2 weeks prior. So I submitted it with like I think 3 hours ish to spare
Oh Jesus.
anymore. The assignment was a research proposal which consisted of identifying 5 sources to potentially use in your research. You didn't have to give any explanation for the sources. There was hardly any requirements. It was just like, give me a list of 5 sources, and then 2 to 3 sentences of your plan for the research.
Jesus.
And it took me like a half hour to do the work, but it took me so long because like another research proposal that was due Friday that I didn't do that I intend to do probably sometime after this upcoming week uh is like 10 or 15 sources identified. I think it's 10 sources identified with specific criteria, and you have to identify, or like I think you have to describe each source to some extent.
Gotcha.
And then it's like a page or 2 pages of a outline of sorts for your research. And I've known about that for quite a while, and there were just other things on my plate, and now there's still other things on my plate, and it's a lot because the way my brain works, I can do a simple quick like 20-minute worksheet, 20-minute quiz, no problem. But any kind of work that is best done over a few days or in multiple sessions, it's just impossible to start.
Yeah. I might actually be getting schoolwork, but it could not. It could still be like a year or so yet before I get it
Hmm.
because I finally actually applied. But it
You're
could
talking
still
about the
be,
apprenticeship, right?
yeah, because I do have like classes and stuff I have to take.
Yeah.
But it could be like a year and a half because of how far behind they are in all their paperwork on the ministry's end. That like I don't know.
We'll see. We got a lot in store for us in the future,
Big things are
just in
coming,
general.
but not quickly enough for me, anyways.
Yeah, I don't know. Life's coming at me real fast. I mean, I say that. Life's been coming at me real fast since I was like 12. It just that's how it's felt. It just continually gets faster and faster. And so I'm definitely like just in general freaking out about what my next steps are cuz I really need to graduate in May, which means I really need to do well in my classes, and I'm not doing well in my classes. And that's terrifying. And then based on my performance in those classes, determine whether or not I can even attempt grad school, which I don't think is going to happen because, at least at the university I'm currently at, to go for a master's in history, regardless of if it's a master's of science or a master's of art, you have to be proficient to a certain reading level that assume they'll test in some way in a second language. I don't know any other languages. Um, and so and the reason is that you can like read historical documents in another language, and that is helpful. So because if I were to like, for example, write about Napoleon, it would be helpful to read the letters Napoleon wrote and his personal notes, which have never been translated into English. So
Yeah.
kind of be tough to do that without knowing French. So grad school is largely off the table unless I want to go for like a master's in education, which at that point I'm basically setting myself up to be an administrator or something, and that's boring. I want to be a teacher for a long time. I don't really want to ever be a principal. And so then it's like trying to figure out what kind of program I want to get into, in what kind of state to get a licensure, uh, which I just haven't done nearly enough research for figure out, which means whatever I decide to do, I'm probably taking at least a year off before I finish or before I continue my education, which is then scary to try and figure out what I'm doing in that year. Am I working? Where am I working? Where am I living? Stuff like that. And so that's where my next thought of potentially doing the Peace Corps comes in, because working abroad for 2 years in education, because basically the entirety of the Peace Corps is education of some form, sounds really appealing. Plus, I think you can basically sign up whenever you want. It's like the military. There's a recruitment process, and then probably some sort of form of training, not boot camp, but whatever. Um, so now I'm like considering the very real possibility of just dipping for 2 years out of everyone else's life and just living off the grid, because that's kind of what it means to be in the Peace Corps.
Yeah. But like,
So
yeah. Like, I was like,
it's
but
extending your thoughts.
I was thinking about it for a second. I was like, yeah, but like, it'll be a good experience. But like, will it? Will it really?
Yeah, I don't know. Going
Probably
off the
not.
grid for 2 years, I might just not come back. I'm very confident. I say very confident. I don't know. I think if you were to like right now, give me a month to prepare something so that I can like buy necessary clothes or and like make appropriate travel plans and like do it in a reasonable way. But if a month from now I was going to be living in a random village in South Africa, because it's one of the places that Peace Corps does work. And it's like, yeah, once a month you'll probably, or once every like 2 weeks or something like that, you'll get access to the internet for a day as you travel to a big enough city for that to
Mm.
happen. But other than that, you only have contact with the people in your village. I think I would be fine. I can make friends pretty much anywhere I go. I'm a likable person. I think it'd be good for my physical health, assuming I don't get any diseases.
Yeah,
Which
it could
this
also
is
be
under the assumption I have.
detrimental to your physical health. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it is one
This is
or
under the
the
assumption
other.
I have all my vaccines, and I don't end up needing some sort of like emergency surgery wherever
Yeah.
I end up. That ends up I get an infection and die
But
from
like, even
staph
just
or
the
something.
heat. The
No, no, no.
heat will like, I mean like, physically wise, it will like help you.
Mm,
Cause like my
yeah, no.
dad,
I
you've
would
seen
come back
pictures of
in
my
shape.
dad at least. But like my dad, when he went to Africa, he'd come back like 15 pounds lighter
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I would lose
of just
weight
pure water weight that's gone.
down to a healthy or presumably healthy weight, because it's kind of hard to stay fat in a poor village in the in the mountains.
Yeah.
Like it's just literally there's not enough food present for me to stay at the weight I am, combined with presumably walking everywhere I go to some extent and like just being forced to have a healthier diet and healthier lifestyle out of necessity.
Mm.
I think largely like it would be very positive for me mentally and physically if I can deal with the isolation, which I think I can.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm not expecting to like come back all Zen guru, like a completely changed person. I'll still be the same person, but hopefully I'll be in a better place. If I do this, I don't know. Still, I still got some time.
And you get to be helping people, right? Like,
Yeah,
which
and
always
it'll
feels
be
good.
relevant to like my future jobs. Because like I said, the Peace Corps is mostly educational based. Like the programs that you could choose, they literally have like education program, but that's largely teaching either English or math, neither of which are my chosen fields. So probably not going to be teaching those. Um, and then there's also agriculture, environmentalism, as opposed to agriculture. Um, so like more of just sustainable interactions and healthy interactions with the environment, as opposed to sustainable and healthy interactions specifically within farming. Um, and then there's like community development, uh, which is both, or it's development and then like economic development. So you could either work with like local businesses and try and bolster the economy and improve the community in that way, which I don't have the business knowledge, expertise, whatever you want to say for that. Then
Yeah.
there's like youth development, so it's just youth programs. I could probably do that. And then health, which is basically teaching um like freshman health class that most people dealt with in high school, at least in the States, of sex ed combined with like just sanitary practices, how to wash your hands, how to handle food properly, and like raw meat and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. But it's all almost everything is like classroom education and or in the field education.
Fair enough. But yeah, it seems like it would be a good opportunity also because it helps with your debt too, right?
Uh, kind of.
Kind of.
So yeah, it's not a volunteer situation. So that is true. Like you are a government employee. Um, however, my understand is the pay is not good at all because part of living in like an isolated village in the mountains is your expenses are pretty low. So
It's true. You're
yeah,
not
I wouldn't.
paying a whole bunch to be there either.
Yeah, so I wouldn't really make much money in it. Um, but I don't know for sure the extent of that. The pay and whatnot. I just know it's not fantastic. Like certainly not there for the money. You are there for the humanitarian work. The money is literally so that there's an incentive other than the kindness of your heart. But it's barely an incentive. It's just so you don't die, pretty
Yeah.
much. Uh, yeah, I'll be right back. I spilled something, so I need to grab some napkins.
Okay. This is gonna be the part we have to edit out.
All right, I'm back.
You missed my song, but you know
Unfortunate.
that sucks to be you. You'll hear it in editing.
No, the napkins are just outside of my room, so
Fair enough.
did not take long.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah,
have to
like
take my keyboard apart later, but whatever.
yeah, it may not pay good, but again, any of your expenses aren't going out super huge either.
Yeah, the hope would just be that it's enough money to make payments on my student loans so that I'm
Yeah,
not going further into debt by being there.
yeah. Which is all you really need, right? Like you just need. Well, it
Yeah,
would be nice to help pay off too, but
yeah, I don't know. Like I said, we'll see what happens.
it is what it is.
It's
Yeah,
it's at least like 2 to 3 months in the future as far as the decision making time,
yeah.
but
Which isn't a
probably
super
further.
long amount of time,
Yeah,
relatively
it's not a
speaking.
super long amount of time, but like it's not am I going to answer this question in the next hour of recording this
That's
podcast?
true.
That's what I'm getting at. So I'm not going to solve it this hour or even this week, so uh
I mean, I can't say much about time deadlines for deciding on things, seeing as I waited till 2 months before I was supposed to move into residence to decide I wasn't going to university.
yeah, but it's easier to decide 2 months away from university to not go than it easy is to decide 2 months before university to go. Like if you just hadn't applied or like done
Yeah, I
anything,
guess that's true.
just be impossible.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, but wouldn't you be deciding between like Peace Corps or applying for jobs?
Uh, yeah. So that's the thing is I would probably be deciding between Peace Corps or working towards my teaching licensure.
Oh, so like
So
teachers college.
kind of it. Every state does a different system, right? So
Gotcha.
Pennsylvania, for example, their system is an internship. This is for people who have a bachelor's degree in a subject that can be taught. For example, myself, history or math or like biology, but they didn't get a teaching licensure as part of their degree because most states have their teaching licensure a bachelor's program. So you get a bachelor's degree in like grade 7 through 12 history or grade 7 through 12 social studies or whatever it's called. And so then you would have your license to teach that subject level um,
But you
in
couldn't
that
take.
subject.
Does that mean if you had your bachelor's degree to teach grade 7 to grade 12 history, you couldn't teach grade 6 history?
Right.
That's dumb.
I believe. Um, but no, it does make sense because your teaching license is like dependent on grade level because you're taught how to teach things differently. Like the
Gotcha.
class to teach kindergartners is different from the class to teach 12th graders.
Like yeah, that makes sense, but
And so that's kind of where it goes into is they're broken up into like age brackets so that you learn how to teach what's applicable. So I have a buddy who has graduated and is now a student teacher. So maybe it's technically not graduating. This is his last semester before he's a fully licensed teacher. And he was an elementary education major. So his plan, as far as I know, is to teach 5-year-olds. Like that's his life plan. Is he wants to be a kindergarten teacher, which I
fuck
think he is crazy
that.
for. Um,
Hate kids. I
but I
like
think he's.
kids, but not enough to spend every day of most of the year with them.
I like kids. I think kids are adorable.
Kids are great when they're not
However,
mine. Like,
I don't. I don't want to teach kindergartners because it's not a ton you can teach them.
yeah.
Like what you're teaching them is very valuable, like alphabet, numbers, writing, very lowest forms of reading. Like there are important things taught in that classroom, how to be a nice person, but that's not the stuff I'm passionate about teaching.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, I would never want to teach 5-year-olds because I can't imagine working with 5-year-olds. It's that's not the subject matter I want to teach, and I can't stand in front of a group of 5-year-olds and try to explain to them the geopolitical causes of World War One, uh, based off of ethnic groups,
Well, you
right?
can, but that doesn't mean they'll understand what the fuck
Oh,
you're going on about.
you can 100% stand there and say those things, but you can't teach them those things.
That's true.
Um,
You can stand there and you can say those things, and they're just gonna like fart and walk away.
yeah. So Pennsylvania does a program where it's a 2-year internship. It's 1 year in the classroom where you learn all the education classes that I didn't take at university.
Gotcha.
Um, so all the how to teach, and then it's a year of student teaching, or maybe it's a
Gotcha.
semester of student teaching and 3 semesters of classroom learning. I don't know, but it's something like that. So basically, you just take the half of the bachelor's degree that you didn't take, and you go and you take it.
Gotcha.
Which,
Which makes sense.
uh, yeah. So that's very applicable to people who are in situations like me where they didn't when they switched to whatever degree that they're in or they initially started studying that degree is I guess the better way to phrase it. They weren't planning on being a teacher. When I switched from IT to history, I was planning on joining the military.
Yeah.
Um, and so teaching didn't come until a while after that. And at the point that I realized I wanted to become a teacher, it was going to add a year to my degree, and that was passing every single class and taking like 18 credits a semester. So really, it would have added probably 2 to 2.5 years to my degree, which the university would not have allowed me to stay in the bachelor's program for 6 years. Like they just don't do that.
Yeah.
After a certain point, they just kick you out. Well, no, they don't kick you out. They withhold financial aid. So I'd be paying every single penny of my education.
Uh,
Um, which is why it's so important that I graduate in May. Um, because I've taken so many credits with transferring in a bunch of credits from high school. I'm assuming after the semester I'll be paying for every single penny of my education as
gotcha.
opposed to getting any financial aid from the university and maybe even the federal government. So then, and that would include student loans through the government. I'd have to get my loans through private lenders, which would be much more severe than the government interest rates and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, it wasn't feasible for me to switch into the education program, so I basically have to go back to school, take more classes of the stuff I missed, but it would be presumably cheaper to do it in the separate program. Other states do different things. For example, Virginia, the state I live in, um, you actually can't apply for their teaching licensure program unless you are retired military or you have 5 years relevant work experience, which basically means in order to get a teaching license in Virginia, which most states will accept other states' teaching license. So I could still teach in Virginia getting a license in Pennsylvania. I would have to work 5 years in like a historical archive of some sort or join the military. Alternatively, I go to trade school real quick, become a welder, uh, and get a whole bunch of welding certificates, work in a shipyard as a welder for 5 years, make a buttload of money, and then basically retire as a teacher. And that's how you get your trade teachers in
Hi.
high schools. Is people
Hi.
who were in the workforce doing that trade, and then one day we're like, you know what? I've got enough money. I like kids. I'll go teach this to
You know
kids
what?
and like get
I'm not a
new
huge
people a blue
fan of
collar job.
breathing in this steel dust anymore now that I'm 50.
Yeah. Um.
That's the goal right there. That's my end goal.
Yeah.
That's my
And so the
retirement plan. And then when I'm
the
70, teaching kids how to use a lathe.
the benefit of Virginia doing that program, I say the benefit is like Pennsylvania. All of their internships that they have available are through like 4 year universities. It's just a specialized program.
Hmm.
Virginia, their program for getting that licensure is available at like 4 schools in the entire state. And it's 2 4 year universities, and then it's 2 or 3 community colleges, including the community college in the town I live in.
Mm.
So I don't have the relevant work experience to just hop over to the community college, but community colleges are cheaper. And so if that were a path I were to take, I would have that. Which would mean theoretically I could still go into the military, work for one or I guess probably 2 enlistment periods, which I wouldn't be an enlisted man. I'm a commissioned officer, but it's besides the point. Um, that's just term of time. So work for like 10 years and retire. But if I'm going to join the military, I'm going to do the 20 years to get the full retirement package
Yeah.
and then retire as a like 42, 43-year old. Um, and that's the dream minus like
If you make it
the
there.
yeah, no, minus the whole like risk of death, risk of severe
I am seeing
maiming
no
and
downsides.
disability,
Hold on, wait a
the
minute.
mental health associated issues. um what, you're not worried about losing a leg in the service?
No, I more meant in my job.
Mm,
You're describing like, long-term health effects, potential
yeah,
maiming and death, and I'm like, wait a minute.
that's just a machine shop.
That's just what I do, but with
Don't you know the
guns.
military is just a geopolitical machine shop?
Yeah,
We're
pretty
either
much.
trying to fix a country that's broken or we're trying to make a new one out of random parts.
Yeah, I guess that. Hey, you have got a
I
point.
cracked the code.
But you've got something that is bigger than it should be, and you need to keep it to the right size,
You need
which
to make
is
it smaller.
yeah, which is what like boring is.
Ugh.
It's like when countries get a little too handsy with other countries, and they're like, "You could be mine, you know."
Yeah. And so many states do different things. So what I would presumably do is when I graduate, slash when I have time to properly look, my two most likely plans are to do one of the programs where the school or the state sends you to a school that doesn't have enough teachers. And you work for 3 to 5 years at that school, and then your superintendent either approves or disapproves of you getting your license retroactively
I would like to say that
based
if
on
you
your
make it
performance.
like 3 to 5 years in that school without getting like released, I feel like they're gonna give it to you, right? Like,
Well, yeah, I say 3 to 5 years because I think it's either some programs do 3 years and other programs do 5 years, or you become eligible at 3 years and you have until 5 years to make it,
gotcha.
right? Because they're so desperate for teachers that probably as long as you're not doing anything illegal and you're at least attempting, you're not going to get fired.
Fair.
Um, the flip side of that is, though, there's a reason that school system needs teachers, which means either the school is in a very poor area, whether that be rural or inner city, and just can't afford teachers, which means I'm going to be dirt poor, or it's a situation where the faculty is so bad, like the administration, that everybody refuses to work there. But I think
You're
the
missing
previous
one
one is more
option.
experience, is more likely. What?
The community around this school that kids from the community gets in there is such a violent community that this high school is just brutally violent with the
Yeah,
kids that are brought there.
that fits into the poor school technically,
Yeah, I
um,
guess.
because there are just very strong ties between uh, economic class and violence. Like this isn't that there is no other state political statement I'm trying to make other than poor
Mm,
areas are typically more violent. We will not get into the reasons. That is just a statistic.
yeah.
Um, I think they're reasonable reasons, but yep. Anyway, um, so yeah, it's just we'll see what happens. I kind of like the idea of that system because there are some states that just nobody lives in,
Mm,
and that's why it happens. For
y-
example, Montana, North Dakota,
The
uh,
Midwest in general.
Idaho. No, not the Midwest, because like Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, those are all
Yeah, I
populated states.
guess.
There are definitely Midwestern states that have a lower population, or parts of the Midwest that have a lower population, like the UP, or probably portions of Indiana and portions of Minnesota. But yeah, so catch me living in rural, middle of nowhere Minnesota, enjoying all the wonderful wildlife, the fishing, the hunting, the just general outdoors activities, but basically just the element I'm designed to thrive in. And I don't have to get a teaching license yet. That is the 100%
That's the
ideal
dream.
situation. Yeah.
That is definitely the dream right there.
Hmm.
My dream is me living in the middle of bumfuck nowhere in the woods with a bunch of land and a bunch of dogs.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Maybe running my own shop, maybe not. That seems stressful.
Yeah, like have you seen the um guy? I think he does probably TikToks, but I see him on YouTube. Charlie Barons, however he pronounces it, that does
No.
all the videos on the Midwest.
Oh yes, yes, yes. I seen on
That
Instagram.
yeah, yeah. He is my inspiration
He's
because
amazing. He's so funny.
I I for years hated on the Midwest as someone from New York and considering myself like from the New East. To be clear, upstate New York, not the city. But upon watching his videos, I realized that seeing as the part of upstate New York I live in is considered by some people either Western New York or the Southern tier as opposed to upstate, which is culturally basically Western Pennsylvania, which is culturally basically the Midwest. I have now realized that no, I'm not a northerner. I'm a northern Midwesterner. And the Midwest, as much as I've hated on it for years, is where I belong.
You know what the Midwest is?
Hmm,
Midwest is just Canada, but inside the United States.
I know. That's the other part of the reason it's where I belong, because I've spent so much time with Canadians. Like
It's
I
true.
really want to live on the Canadian Shield, like Minnesota and North Dakota. I don't want to live in Wisconsin. I'm gonna be honest. Um,
No, me neither.
like
Minnesota though.
I want to live in the northern Midwest, right? So that eliminates looking at this map. That eliminates most of it. So Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri. Kansas and Missouri are basically the South. Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio are all too far south as far as I'm concerned.
I want to go
Actually, no.
North Bay. Like I want to go north from
Oh yeah,
here.
like
Like I want to
I want
be
to.
in the woods. There's not a town forever from me.
Yeah, North Dakota, Montana, and Minnesota are probably my best bets of having that experience.
Yeah.
And I suppose Wyoming, but three of those states aren't technically the Midwest. So
Immigrant.
what?
I said immigrant. Come to
Why?
Canada. Move to Newfoundland.
Oh, look, I I don't know if you remember this ever being brought up. I know he has forgotten at least twice. I don't know if he still remembers. But back in 2015,
hmm
when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were running for president in the United States, Kyle made an agreement with me to allow me, in the case that Donald Trump was elected, to move to Canada and marry one of his sisters so that I could get in that way. I brought it up to him, I think sometime in
I
2018.
remember that.
Yeah, I brought it up to him in like 2018, 2019. It was when I saw him at camp. And I was like, so when am I marrying your sister? And which one? And he was like, what?
Yeah, because I remember I remember you telling me about it at camp. Either you told me about it or Kyle told me about it. I was like, Joe just walked up to me and asked me to marry my sister, and I was so confused.
It was an agreement we came to. I didn't just spring it on him. Um, so actually, I say we did it in 2015. I guess it would have been the summer of 2016 because that was before the election
Yeah.
that it happened, not 2015. Which, like, I didn't even hate Trump much as a president. I just assumed that the country was going to devolve into like civil war or something. So I almost got it right if Trump was elected.
I
Um,
mean,
but yeah, no, I'm trying to find me a nice Canadian girl to allow me to move out of the country. Not that I really like want to deal with Canada's government either,
you don't.
but
But if you
culturally
ignore it, it doesn't
I
do
fit in with
much.
yeah, culturally I fit in with Canadians. Uh and
Like honestly, I have no idea
I
what's
can
going
move
on
to
in
the
the
middle of the
government
woods.
right now, but it hasn't been bugging me any either. So,
Well, it's showing up a lot on my social media. What is going on in your government? Part of that is just certain people from camp that I follow on social media, which really don't want to anymore because I just disagree with them politically so much that I'm also like older than them by a few years. So it's not like, oh, I disagree with you politically. I don't like you. I'm just like, I don't think you're old enough to have this strong of an opinion. You just haven't experienced the world. I'm sorry.
There's some I know very loosely about some of the things that are going on in Ottawa right now. Right
Yeah.
idea, wrong approach is my stance on it. I don't know how you feel
Is that
about
your
it.
stance on the government or the protesters?
The protesters,
Hmm. Yeah, I don't
because
really
they are not
fully understand the situation.
really bugging Parliament all that much. Like, yeah, they're blocking the road to get there. They're
Yeah.
also stealing from the homeless there and honking in the middle of the night. There's no one in the Parliament building in the middle of the night. You don't need your truck running and driving that horn, laying
Yeah.
on that horn in the middle of the night when there's no one there. The only people you're bugging are the people who live close to Parliament, who are just regular people who have to work in the morning probably.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't fully know what's going on there. I understand it has something to do with like protest against COVID restrictions. Um,
It's truckers having to get the some truckers are being forced to get the COVID vaccine when they cross
that's
the
what this is
border.
about. What the heck?
But it's so the way they went about it, there has been like multiple both Confederate and Nazi flags and
Oh,
just
I'm sure.
stealing from homeless and it's just like, dude, again, right idea, protest is the way to go. But blocking traffic, disturbing the regular inhabitants of Ottawa.
Yeah. I don't understand anyone who gets upset about vaccine mandates. Simply because there's not legal precedent to oppose it.
Especially not in Canada.
Yeah. Like, there are certain groups within the United States that I would argue do have legal precedent to uh, fight back against vaccine mandates. Those groups aren't dealing with vaccine mandates. Like the Amish, they don't have vaccines, typically speaking, because it goes against their religious beliefs.
Hmm.
The Amish occasionally like struggle with polio outbreak. Well, I guess polio doesn't outbreak, but like oh, maybe it does. I don't actually know how polio works. But like polio, mumps, measles, various diseases that we just have vaccines for. Um, and so that actually became an issue a few years ago with like all the anti-vax stuff that was just surrounding like regular childhood vaccines, let alone COVID, like pre-COVID issues.
Yeah.
Because I remember there being a ruling. It was the summer. I guess it was summer of 2019. There was just a bunch of measles outbreaks in New York and just the Northeast. And so there was like a law passed to shut down private schools that don't uh, require vaccines because those were the schools that were having the outbreaks.
Hmm.
But then there was protest against it because it was like, hold up, the Amish community will literally be illiterate if we do this because their only schools are private schools that don't require vaccines.
Yeah.
So hold up, because the bill didn't allow for religious exemptions because it was like Catholic schools or all sorts of different schools
Hmm.
they're having the issues. And so now when like people get upset about a COVID vaccine mandate, it's just like this is nothing new. We already have like vaccine requirements for people. We those vaccine requirements like are needed to attend regular education or certain like jobs or to even travel depending on where you're going and what vaccines we're talking about.
Yeah.
So vaccine mandates are not a new concept. And people that are worried about the COVID vaccine specifically like are either misinformed about what the COVID vaccine does or are just completely ignorant of everything.
Yeah.
Because I remember speaking to some college roommates that were like really scared about the COVID vaccine, and they're like kind of getting into the conspiracy theory stuff of, oh, it just became available way too fast. And I was like, hold up, development for this vaccine started in like 2013 because COVID is just a variant of
It
SARS.
was in a research lab
Yeah,
and got out. What do you think they were doing with it in a research lab? Just poking it? It's like,
yeah,
man, what are you doing? Meh. Like,
like
no.
SARS.
Why? What is
SARS.
happening?
There's several like SARS, or there's another strain that's very similar. Which, like, to be clear, the common cold is a variant of SARS, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, and so they were technically working on a common cold vaccine, but they just couldn't quite figure it out, hatch it out, because they couldn't get any concrete enough of a strain to work on because there weren't any outbreaks of SARS that were pressing enough
Yeah.
to need a vaccine until COVID. And it was like, oh, guys, we have this vaccine that's been sitting on the back burner for 5 years. We just need a few months to tweak it, figure it out, and it will be ready.
Yeah, and they did before like there was any mandates. Like in February, they were already before Canada went into lockdown, they were already doing like human tests of the vaccine, which means they tested it on something else first to make sure
Yeah.
that it was safe for humans, and then started doing human tests of the vaccine. We hadn't even locked down yet.
Oh yeah.
Like the vaccine's only a year old. That's when it was released, man. That's when it was finished. There's a reason they
So yeah,
released it.
like I haven't gotten my booster yet because I got COVID recently. Like
Yeah,
literally, it was like
I'm almost
I'm
certain
eligible for my booster in a week, and then I had COVID.
I'm almost certain I got COVID and just didn't like my immune system from being abused was just
Mhm.
like I had a bad headache and I had but that was really it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
might have lost my sense of smell, but I don't know. I can't. My nose is normally super congested anyway, so I couldn't tell the difference.
yeah. So all the people that are getting their underwear in a bind over vaccine mandates just don't make sense to me. Like,
My
you
favorite
just
argument is the government microchip one,
yeah,
because like you're stupid on so many levels with that one.
like there's a very real possibility that one of our governments is tracking this conversation currently.
Oh
But
yeah,
if they're
100%.
not, they're gonna have full access to it when we
Yeah,
upload it
yeah,
for the
but
entire
also
world to see.
there's this thing that almost everyone in our countries, the two countries we live in, has
A smartphone
a
with
smartphone.
the GPS.
I can go onto my phone right now and I can tell you everywhere I have driven in the past year.
Mm, not just that, but like even walked.
Yeah,
If it's
oh
on your
yeah.
person,
As long as you have service, they know where you've gone.
yeah,
And Google, like, there's a thing where you can turn it off on Google. I don't know where it is. I don't care where it is. It's really handy to see every. Shut up, Google. I wasn't talking to you. But like, it's really kind of neat to look at all the places I've driven. Like to me, I love that. I can go into my Google. I don't care if the government's using it. Oh no, I went to work 5 times this week. What do you like? But I can see all these cool road trips I've gone on, and like pictures I've taken there get saved on this map, and like it's so cool.
yeah. Like if you're worried about the government spying on you, then you need to go move to Montana and live off the grid.
Yeah,
And you'll find that the people
Alaska.
that have done that thing are significantly crazier than you are. So
My phone got confused because I stopped at a stoplight for an extended period of time, and it was trying to figure out where I was stopping at, like what I was visiting.
Hmm.
Where was this? Oh no, I was parked at Popeyes, waiting for my food.
Heavens forbid.
So it's confused because there's so many things right there that it has no idea what I was stopped at. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was getting Popeye's phone. Like it also knows that I was just stopped at home for 3.5 hours before I went to Olivia's house. Oh, it missed. I didn't go to the gas station according to my phone. Ho ho, dummy.
Hmm. Absolute loser.
You don't even know what's up. Idiot. It took me 19 minutes to get into Waterford yesterday. That's ridiculous.
How long should it take you?
Like less than 5 normally to get to
Oh
Olivia's
wow.
house with the way I drive. That's just so like again, I was messaging you and like the weather was so nice Tuesday, Wednesday. And then like 5 o'clock on Wednesday it started to rain. And then Thursday it was raining almost all day. But it was still like 45 degrees in the morning when I got to work at 6:30, and then by lunch it was still around 45, and then by the time I took my last break like 2 hours later, it was like in the 30s, and by the time I went home it was in the 20s.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got home it was like by the time I left work on Thursday it was snowing, and then I got home and it hadn't started snowing yet there. But it was done. We went from like nice, warm, sunny weather Thursday at lunch to like snowing in the matter of like 4.5 hours.
Yeah. No, the coldest I have ever been was like not somewhere up north, like not some hunting trip or some like ice fishing trip or something. It was a week where we had really nice weather in Virginia in February. It was in the 70s. And I didn't check the weather before leaving the house, and it was somewhere around freezing. I think it was below freezing, probably in like the upper 20s, maybe lower 20s, and then with wind chill, it got down into the upper teens, and
Yeah.
I dressed for 70-degree weather.
Oh Jesus.
So I left the house in a t-shirt and jeans,
We
and
had
I
a
stood at the bus stop for 20 minutes just in the wind.
we
And
had
then
a day in grade like 10 or 11. And it would have been grade 10 because I couldn't drive yet. Um, where we were waiting for the bus in the morning, and it was -40, and then with the wind chill it was like -60 or something.
yeah.
But -40 is the same in Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
just fucking cold. There's only so many layers that you can like put on where it
Yeah,
blocks the wind and like your face. You can only put so many layers on your face.
yeah. I waited outside for like 20 minutes for the bus, get to school, and then I had to wait outside again for another bus to take me to a separate building.
Jesus.
My arms were purple, dude.
I believe it, man.
And because like macho man like edgy high school mentality, I had realized, I don't know, like 2 years prior that if you don't shiver, you don't feel as cold, right? And
Yeah,
what
you're
that probably is the just mental concentration to avoid shivering is strenuous enough to distract you from the cold.
yes.
And
But
so not
physically you
only
are
was,
getting colder because your body isn't warming itself up any.
yeah. So not only am I standing there in the cold don't even have my hands in my pockets, or maybe I did. Actually, I think I did. So like the curved line of where my hand entered my pocket, because I kept the thumb out, so it's just half the palm, and then the four fingers were a normal color. Everything above that, up to like my shoulder, purple. And I was not shivering either, because I was just focused on not shivering and maintaining whatever conversation I was having. So all of my friends that are like standing around me are like, "What the fuck is wrong with Joe?" Like
Well, the weird
his
thing for me
arms
in
are
like cold
purple. I could
weather,
see all of his veins, and he is not shivering.
the weird thing for me in cold weather is like we work with steel. Steel does not warm up. Like it just doesn't. It like I could
Yeah.
bring us piece in uh the night before out of the cold and it would still be cold when I went to grab it in the morning,
Oh yeah,
right?
for sure.
But like the thing is because of my right arm where I just can't feel temperature properly, I can just go out in the cold, grab the piece I need, throw it on my shoulder, bring it inside, throw it on the saw, and just only touch it with my right hand. And my boss hates it. Because he's like, dude, you're. I understand that, like, you can't feel what's happening right now. It doesn't mean it's not happening. Like,
Yeah,
the
I
frostbite can still get you just because you can't feel it getting you.
I had a guy I lived with last semester who, um, because of something that happened when he was a kid, the pain receptors in his hands were like delayed.
Oh.
So it wasn't like you touched something hot, you took your hand away, and then it burned 30 seconds later. It just took longer for him to feel the pain. So if he touched something hot and then removed his hand before he started to feel the pain of it being hot, it wouldn't hurt him.
Gotcha.
Obviously, it's still doing damage. But yeah, I would see him just like grab a pan here or there, or like touch something and not immediately realize it's hot. I'm just like, man, like sometimes it is an accident, and other times you're just doing it because you can, and like, don't. That's bad. Like
Yeah, but,
people
like,
with
if you're in a
leprosy,
rush.
people with leprosy lose their fingers and then their hands and their toes and then their feet, not simply because it like rots off, but because the nerves stop working and then they start damaging those parts of their bodies until they fall off.
Yeah. Well, no, at work, someone was like, Michael, if you don't get cold, why do you always roll your right sleeve down? Like when your left arm gets cold, you roll your right sleeve down too. And I was like, because I may not feel cold on that arm, but you'll also notice I always roll it down first. Because if I don't, I'll forget. And like
Yeah.
damages are still a thing that can happen. And I know that, and I need to protect this poor little arm of mine. Because it helps every once in a while as my dominant arm. No, it's a weird kind of
Hmm.
situation of like, yeah, I know it's bad, but like every once in a while, like sometimes the waiting for the forklift is like 45 minutes, and if I know they're doing a big job, I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go grab it, and I'll put on like gloves and my coat still, but like I won't touch it with my left hand because I know that that cold will get through my gloves before I get back to the shop.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dig me, dog.
I don't have any supernatural or super powerful abilities to ignore pain or the cold. I used to not be ticklish on the bottom of my feet after being very ticklish on the bottom of my feet because I got tired of people tickling the bottom of my feet, so I just got over it. Which like is not one day waking up and deciding you're no longer ticklish. It's just training yourself to not react to the ticklish feeling until it stops being ticklish.
Yeah.
To be clear, I didn't just wake up one day and was like, I'm gonna stop squirming. No. It took training. And then um my feet are really weird now because I don't know if it's like a circulation issue or something, but my feet are always either freezing cold or sweating. There is no in between. That's not entirely true. They're not either right now, but they feel like they're very close to sweating, but they also feel like they're close to being cold right now. So there's a very small in between, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
it's
circulation thing.
Yeah. Well, I assume it's a
For sure.
circulation thing, obviously, but I'm just like I don't know what is causing that, and so I don't know if it's just I don't get enough blood flow to my extremities in general, or if like some form of damage has happened, right? Because I don't think I'm anemic, per se. So
Oh, and I also know some people who I won't name names, but like I am very my blood pressure runs a little high and my heart rate runs a little high. And so like normally my blood is always pumping, so I'm very warm like almost all of the time.
mhm.
But I also know some people who like they have a higher heart rate but they have lower blood pressure and they're always cold. Like there's been situations where I've gone outside to use my vape or whatever, and then I've come back inside to hang out with them and I've like brushed up against them and they're the one who feels cold. It's like that doesn't make sense. I was just outside in the negative 10 Celsius weather out there and you're in here where it's like 65.
Yeah.
Like you should be warm right now and I should be the cold one, but that's not what's happening and I'm not a huge fan of the fact that that's not what's happening. Um, I feel like that's a good ish area to leave on.
Yeah.
You can catch me
All
during
right.
the week, twitch.tv/Mikester390. I don't
And
know if you've changed yours yet, so I'm not gonna.
oh, mine's been Cephas for a while now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've been announcing it as such in here as well. Yeah, so you can find me um, right now pretty much just on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern time at twitch.tv/ Cephas underscore underscore. That's CEPHUS underscore underscore. Um, typically playing at if you're catching my stream at that time, like specifically Saturdays at 7, I will be playing Arma with the what is currently called the 8th Shock Troop Battalion. It's in like world name, but there are discussions of like name change and rebranding potentially happening. So that's not the most relevant information. But yeah,
On Spotify, we are C&M in the PM. On YouTube and Twitch, we are CNM in the PM. You can catch us live on Twitch every Saturday at 11 o'clock.